Hello and welcome. In the quiz today, we're gonna talk about donk betting. A donk bet in poker is the action of taking the lead, betting when out of position and not the pre-flop riser. So this is an example. Pre-flop the button open raise and we elected to defend in the small blind with ace-jack suited, and now if we are betting on that flop, it's gonna be called a donk bet. As a general rule, Snowie is donk betting very rarely. When we are betting out of position, either as a c-bet or as a donk bet, we are building a bigger pot, and we want to do that with a very polarized range. So as a bluff with pure air, but this is just a bonus, we have to compensate by value betting with stronger hands. And the strong hands we want to bet for value are hands that are strong enough to stack off if our opponent raise, or at least to play for very big pots, and to barrel on multiple streets. But if the pre-flop riser has a hand which is strong enough to give us action on multiple streets, he would certainly c-bet it himself, and there is no need for a donk bet. But actually this situation is an exception, and surprisingly it's correct to donk bet 1/6 of the time. To understand why, we have to go back to pre-flop ranges. The villain on the button has to open with a very wide range. Pre-flop advisor suggests to open all those hands, which represent about 42%. Most of the player will open with a wider range, up to 80%. And the player in the small blind should be more in the 3-bet or fold strategy. According to pre-flop advisor, small blind calling range is close to 0. They are the hand in yellow here. And even if most of the player would have a wider range, it will still be very narrow and very strong in that spot. So the range of the pre-flop caller is much stronger than the range of the pre-flop riser. So for once, it makes sense that the defender is the one who should take the leads and do the betting. The defender range is capped, since he would probably have 3-bet pre-flop with aces, tens, and ace-10. So he cannot have those monsters, but ace-jack is so far ahead on that flop against the overall opening range from the button that it's strong enough to donk bet for value. When we check, our plan should be to bluff catch. Ace-jack is strong enough to donk bet, but not strong enough to check raise with, unless the button is a total maniac or hero has a crazy dynamic with him. Since both strategies are correct in GTO, let's talk about exploitative play. We rather want to donk bet when villain is very passive or very cautious, and checking is likely to cost us 1 street of value. But donk betting is also an interesting line against very aggressive and suspicious players. Since everybody is able to read, we cannot have the nuts on that flop. An aggressive and suspicious opponent might be tempted to play back at us, either by raising or floating the donk bet. It might be a high variance play, since villain can have the nuts or stronger hands, but it's all a matter of frequency. They are very little part of his range, and it will be suicidal for the button to play back at us too often, a bit like those maniacs who are 3-betting every hand pre-flop to try to tell their opponent they got aces or kings again. Sometimes they do, and they are due to win a big pot, but most of the time they don't. Conversely, we don't want to donk bet against some profiles. If villain is going to c-bet 80 or 90% of his range, of course it will be more profitable to bluff catch with ace-jack, especially if villain is likely to barrel on the turn or the river. If the button is c-betting and barreling a lot, the hand is strong enough to go to showdown. And finally, we don't want to donk bet when villain is going to realize we are trying to trick him and is going to respect the donk bet. If hero is in the big blind, it's no more correct to donk bet. The reason are that now hero is supposed to defend with a much wider range pre-flop. So villain should c-bet with a larger range. And hero wants to be able to bluff catch with a lot of hands. So he needs to protect this bluff catching range and not make easy for the button to barrel. So bluff catching with ace-jack is the optimal strategy. Anyway, that's gonna be it for the quiz of the day and the donk bet strategy. Next week, we're gonna talk about prop betting, meaning betting in position after the preflop riser had checked to us. So that would be the question. We had defended ace-jack in middle position, and preflop riser from under the gun had checked to us. Would you bet pot, bet half pot, or check back for pot control? As always, I would be happy to read your comments and answer your questions. I hope you enjoy watching this video, and see you next time.